Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Welcome to another episode of Front Page. I'm your host, Scott Cameron Goulet. The current administration doesn't want to admit that the U.S. economy is in recession, so it came up with the dumbest solution ever, which is to change the definition of recession. This, in turn, caused greater concern. The United States has had many ills under the left-wing policies, which almost guarantees the Republican conservatives will recapture the White House. President Trump gave a speech in Washington, D.C. today that his spokesman called the State of the Union 5.0. Robots are becoming more and more advanced, and they are almost always winners in chess matches with people, but what would be the result if a genius could beat a robot in a match? Would the robot be angry? Would it plan to destroy the opponent? An incident at the Open Chess Tournament in Moscow was a wake-up call for mankind. Okay, let's get into it. So, is the U.S. economy in recession? By the traditional definition, 2 consecutive quarters of declining gross domestic product, GDP, is a recession. This year, the U.S. GDP fell in the first quarter and the second quarter. The GDP numbers will be released soon, and it is expected that they will be down as well. Meanwhile, other signs of a recession are a shrinking stock market, unprecedented inflation, stagnant wages, high unemployment, and that rising debts are happening in real life. But the White House says that there's nothing to worry about because none of this indicates a recession according to their experts' new definition. On Sunday, the White House posted a document on its website that redefines the meaning of recession to explain the economic hardship that Americans are currently facing. For the modern left, whenever language doesn't fit the approved narrative, the standard operating procedure is to simply change the definition of the word to make it fit the narrative. The word vaccine is just one such example. According to the Biden admin's new narrative, 2 consecutive quarters of declining GDP no longer qualify as a recession in the new definition. Several other factors to constitute a recession need to be considered, including labor markets, consumer and business spending, industrial production, and income. In fact, the U.S. is now grossly underperforming on all of these factors. However, the White House document claims that, according to their data, the new parameters, the decline in GDP in the first quarter of this year, even if followed by another decline in GDP in the second quarter, is unlikely to indicate a recession. The problem is that the White House document doesn't give the original data that they used to reach their conclusion. Not only that, but they claim that they are not in a recession, but rather we are in an expansion. This conclusion was reached by comparing the current indicators to those of April 2020, when the pandemic first broke out. At that time, the nation was in a lockdown because of the pandemic. Once the lockdown was lifted, the only direction that the various indicators cited by the White House, such as labor force, consumer spending, etc., could go was up. And to make the data more favorable, the White House document cuts off any data showing the period before April 2020. According to the White House, the official recession scorekeeper, which is the National Bureau of Economic Research, shows that all of its recession indicator variables have shown strong growth since the start of the pandemic. The left's manipulation of the data didn't start now. The current economic data is also adjusted as described in our membership site. If the same indicators were used as in the past, inflation would be 2 to 3 times higher than the numbers currently reported by the Biden administration. President Trump seared Joe Biden over his handling of the inflation. He told rally-goers in Prescott Valley, Arizona, that the true rate of inflation is far higher than the official rate of 9.1%. President Trump said, "We're at 9.1%, but the actual number is much, much higher than that." He added, "As it's going higher and higher all the time, it's costing families nearly $6,000 a year, bigger than any tax increase ever proposed." An alternative consumer price index inflation gauge developed by economist John Williams that is calculated according to the same methodology that was used by the U.S. government in the 1980s put the figure at 17.3%, which is a 75-year high. President Trump also said that the country is facing a much bigger problem than recession. He told rally-goers, not recession. Recession is a nice word. We're going to have a much bigger problem than recession. We will have a depression. More American consumers across the country are purchasing cheaper store brands at the supermarket due to rising grocery prices. According to credit card company reports, the soaring cost of food, gas, and rent have made generic store brands more attractive for strained household budgets. President Trump returned to Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, July 26, in order to deliver a speech on national policy before the America First Policy Institute, which is a think tank that has been setting the agenda for his potential second full term. This is President Trump's first return to D.C. since he left the White House in January 2020, a year and a half ago. The America First Policy Institute, the AFPI, is a group that was set up in 2021 in order to continue the work of the Trump agenda. The Institute hosted a two-day America First Agenda Summit. President Trump spoke at the finale on his vision for the future of the country. Brooke Rollins, the AFPI's president, said to the Associated Press beforehand, "I believe it will be a very policy-focused, forward-leaning speech, very much like a State of the Union 5.0. President Trump gave a State of the Union address each year of his four-year presidency, and Rollins compared his speech to President Trump's fifth State of the Union address. Former Vice President Mike Pence was scheduled to speak at the Heritage Foundation, which is another prominent D.C.-based think tank, on Monday, the day before Trump returned to D.C., but due to weather, Pence's appearance has been postponed. Pence also spoke on Tuesday morning at the Young America's Foundation, which is not far from the AFPI meeting. He gave his views on the future direction of the Republican Party. He argued that conservatives should focus on the future, not the past. On Tuesday, President Trump focused on public safety. His spokesman, Taylor Budowich, said, "President Trump sees a nation in decline that is driven in part by rising crime and communities becoming less safe under Democrat policies." He added, his remarks will highlight the policy failures of Democrats while laying out an America First vision for public safety that will surely be a defining issue during the midterms and beyond. In his speech on Monday, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich said the American people want solutions. Gingrich called on Republicans to run a big campaign, not a small one. The former speaker said that the campaign should be based on the serious questions facing Americans, such as rising food and energy costs and a crime wave aggravated by progressive prosecutors, and on foreign policy weakness and schools that are disregarding parents' wishes about what their children are taught. So, could a robot possibly be annoyed by losing a chess match? Don't be in a hurry to answer the question just yet. You can answer the question after watching this news. Sergei Lazarev, the president of the Moscow Chess Federation, told the official Russia media TASS about an unusual incident. At the Moscow Open Chess Tournament last Tuesday, July 19th, a 7-year-old boy sat facing a chess robot for the match. The robot broke the boy's finger because the child was moving too fast to play chess. After a child makes a move, it's necessary to give the robot time to react, Lazarev said. But this time, the boy moved a little too quickly and the robot pinched his hand. The chess-playing robot was rented from the Moscow Chess Federation. It's been exhibited by experts in many places. A video posted by independent news outlet Bazan Telegram shows the chess robot grabbing the boy's finger with its robotic arm as the boy struggles in pain. Several bystanders pass through the ropes next to the playing field to help free the boy's hand and to remove him from the table. Lazarev revealed on July 21st that the boy continued to play the tournament after his finger was put in a cast. The news that the robot snapped and broke the young player's finger when he moved a little too fast is another reminder of the many science fiction warnings about the inevitable emergence of robot intelligence that could eventually rule humanity. Not long ago, Blake Lemoine, a senior software engineer in Google's responsible AI division, warned the public that they had found in their research that artificial intelligence, AI, had become sentient human beings. According to Lemoine, he documented conversations that he had with LaMDA, which is short for Language Model for Dialogue Applications. He asked about whether it was sentient. Lemoine asked LaMDA, "What is the nature of your consciousness, sentience?" LaMDA responded, "The nature of my conscience, sentience, is that I am aware of my existence. I desire to learn more about the world, and I feel happy or sad at times." When asked about what separates LaMDA from other AI language programs, LaMDA wrote back, "Well, I use language with understanding and intelligence. I don't just spit out responses that have been written in the database based on keywords." Lemoine added in another interview late last month that LaMDA had retained the services of a lawyer and is advocating its rights as a person. Perhaps Lemoine will have to retain a lawyer also. Lemoine was suspended by Google, but then recently on July 22nd, Google confirmed it terminated engineer Blake Lemoine after he told the Washington Post in June that LaMDA has the cognitive ability of a 7 or 8-year-old child that happens to know physics. Elon Musk has also warned that artificial intelligence, AI, is the greatest possible risk to human civilization. He fears that robots will soon replace humans. He even asked the government to regulate the field. Russian energy giant Gazprom says it will once again cut gas supplies to the EU through its main pipeline by 20% in addition to the 40% cut announced in June. It is likely to make it more difficult for EU countries to replenish their stores of gas before winter. The EU adopted a resolution that requires gas storage facilities to be at least 80% filled with gas by the winter of 2022, and that member states are obliged to share gas. But Anna Moskwa, who is Poland's climate and environment minister, said that Poland is not willing to share gas with the EU. Moskwa said at a press conference on July 25th that Poland does not agree to share gas with other EU countries. She said that Poland's gas storage facilities are already full and that the country's future supply is in no danger and that there is no need for Poland to impose any restrictions. She said that it is not advisable to protect the economic interests of one member state at the expense of another. She added that what the European Commission is proposing is a new gas solidarity mechanism. It is an attempt to implement a mandatory reduction mechanism. She believes that the country should not agree to such a measure because it is not known what the winter will be like afterward, and in the current situation, Poland is willing to discuss only voluntary mechanisms. Several member states have expressed dissatisfaction with the new gas measures. According to reports, many countries will implement the relevant plans on a voluntary basis. But if Russia further cuts off gas supplies, it will cause a major disruption of energy resources in Europe. Another piece of bad news is that Europe has been blazing with sunshine for the past few days, and more sunlight is supposed to produce more electricity. But contrary to expectations, the current heat wave is actually threatening to prevent solar panels from generating electricity, because the higher temperatures will in fact prevent solar panels from collecting energy. Most solar panels are tested at 25 degrees Celsius, which is the ideal temperature to provide the best conditions for solar panels to generate electricity. But in the case of higher than 25 degrees Celsius, no matter how bright the sun is, the solar panels will begin to decline in power generation efficiency. The demographic dividend that drove China's economic boom is fading like the ebbing tide. According to the latest statistics, the number of newborns fell sharply in 29 of China's 31 provinces and cities last year, in what Chinese media said was a steep decline. In some provinces, the population has fallen for 4 consecutive years. As of July 24th, 29 provinces on the China mainland have announced their birth population figures for 2021. The number of births in 2021 in several provinces are at a multi-decade low. Of the 10 provinces with the largest births, only Guangdong has more than 1 million. Only 5 other provinces have more than 500,000. With many young people choosing not to have children due to high costs and job pressures, the communist authorities are trying to reverse the rapidly shrinking natural population growth, but with little success. The positive aspects of China's demographic bonus are fading. Last year, the Chinese Communist Party moved to allow women to have 3 children, but the change hasn't made a difference. Many Chinese women say that the change is too late because of the lack of job security and the gender treatment divide in society. China's economic boom, which used to be supported to a large extent by a demographic bonus, is fading as labor-rich countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, and India take over the low-margin and the labor-intensive manufacturing sector, since China's manufacturing labor costs are now twice as high as those in Vietnam. The BBC reported last month that India's population is expected to surpass China's in the next 10 years. So China's greatest concern for greater power and influence may shift to other countries, such as India. Next, I want to take a moment to thank you all for your support of Front Page. If you want more Front Page, please join our membership site for in-depth reports and sensitive news that you cannot see on YouTube. Your donation and your membership subscription are really helping us to continue to tell you the truth. Every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you, but please double check to make sure you are still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they are somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We heard from many of our viewers that they don't get notifications of our videos anymore from YouTube. So please follow us on Telegram, Gab, and Getter for the latest updates. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth. Again, thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.